In our last lesson, we used Express to install, to create a new web app, and it did so by creating all of these folders and files for us. We then fired up a web server and we navigated to the web server, to the port, to the web server and port nominated here, and we saw this app being published in a browser. We're going to go a bit further now, and I'm going to tell you all about what's happened here. We're going to understand what's going on inside an Express app folder. Okay. The first thing you'll notice is that we have an app.js file rather. Now, do you remember when we first made our first Node.js app and we kept it in the web app folder? There it is. We also had an app.js, and we instructed that to be the first file. Now, the first file hit when a browser hits our web app. Now, Express is doing exactly the same thing. So we've got an app.js folder, except this one, an app.js file, except this one's a little bit more complicated and extends the functionality by default. So I'm going to just go back one level here and open up the Jump Club folder by dragging it onto VS Code so that it opens. And we now see this folder here and all of its contents here rather than in the Finder. You can just check it out. You can see it's the same stuff. App.js, package.lock.json, and package.js, they're all here. They're all here. So I don't need to look at it here in the Finder. I can look at it right here inside Visual Code. I'll close the welcome page there too. All right, so I was telling you we're going to look at the app.js file. So again, someone's going to hit our web app and they're going to hit this file. This file simply has instructions about what to do now. Once you hit it, we could do any number of things. I want you to think about this file as the instructions for how our app should behave, and all extended functionality, all of the things we're going to write about it, are directed to from here. It's like the traffic cop directing the user where to go depending on which page they've navigated to. So there's three main parts I want to describe in here. The first is the functionality, where the functionality lives. So all web apps behave and perform different useful things, and they depend on code. Now we used Express to install some of that functionality, and we used npm install to install it into our app. Do you remember that? Well, that's what happened. Express put this stuff into our app, and then we went about installing it. Now, when the app.js file is hit, that functionality and where it lives is instructed here. We create a variable called the createError variable, and it relies on functionality that's to be found here because we installed it. Same with Express, same with Path. This is just where to find stuff, really. Okay, that we need this functionality for our website to work, and we've installed it, and here it is. We need it, and we remember that we're using it. The next bit is a bit that tells us we're going to write some of our own functionality. We're not going to meddle in how this stuff works, but we're definitely going to write some stuff, depending on what page we hit, that we want our website to do, and that's kept here in the routing area, the routes area. We can see the routes folder here. We're going to learn about that a little bit later. The last bit I want you to think about is down here. You see where it says app.use index router. Great. You'll notice that index router is the same variable name that we set up here, or Express has set for us, that tells us where the instructions are. So if I go through this one last time from start to finish, the app.js folder is hit. File is hit. I keep calling it a folder. The app.js file is hit by the user through the browser and through the web server. We then say we're going to have a variable called index router, and it's going to require instructions from the file found in the roots folder, the index file found in the roots folder. And if we look in this roots folder or routes folder, we see that there's a user file and an index file. So we hit the web server. It says, remember that there's some instructions for the index page over here at a thing called the index router, and you'll find it here. Later on, we assign the web pages that use those instructions. So user hits this file. They're hitting the file they're hitting the web page called users. So they might be at myapp/users, and this file says, we're going to try and use the users web page associated with this app. And when you do, find the instructions in the users router. And the users router, we've already said, will pick up its instructions from the routes folder and into the users directory, the users file in there. Got it? Hit the web app. What file? What page are we on? What page are we trying to use? Well, we're trying to use the users page. Where do we find the users instructions, user page instructions? We find them in the users router. Where is the users router? Well, we already told you. The users router has some instructions in the users route found in the routes folder. Okay, that's as simple as I can probably explain that, although I explained it in several different ways. Okay, so hopefully you understand that now. Let's look at the index route. So imagine we've hit so this is telling us we're hitting the home page. So there's no page after the slash here. So this is the home page. So when you hit the home page, myapp.com, whatever we're calling it, in our case it's going to be Jump Club. When you hit the Jump Club homepage, use the index router. What's the index router do? Index router says pick up some instructions from the routes folder and you'll find an index route in there, and that's going to tell you what to do next. Beaut. So the app tunnels its way into the index.js file and it says, well, there's a GET request, and we'll learn about GET requests later on. So there's the web page. When you hit the GET request for slash, all I want you to do is render a page called index. Now, Node.js or Express knows that the index page is to be found in the views folder because it set that up for us earlier. So it's saying here, when you get a GET request for the home page, just send the user onto the index page and tell that page that there's a further variable called Express, and we're knowing that is the title. The title is Express. Okay, one last jump to do. Let's look at the views folder. So we've tunneled all the way through the apps.js file, found the instructions in the index.js route, and now we're going to push this user to the index view. So let's look at what the index view does. We find it here in the views folder. Let's double click that and it'll open. And it's a very simple file in and of itself. It says, we're going to extend the layout, which we'll learn about later on. But for now, you just need to know that we're going to produce a heading. We learned about H1 tags earlier. This is how Pug shows an H1 tag. It doesn't need the tag, it just needs the instruction, H1. We're going to get used to this. And then it's going to present the title that's incoming from the route. So it said, send it to the index view and tell the index view that the title of this page is called Express. So when we get to the index view, it says, well, we'll throw up a heading and some plain text, and we'll put in whatever you told us the title is supposed to be. We'll just put that in here. Okay, so one last round trip. We hit the app.js file when the app is first hit. The app.js file says you'll find some instructions for whatever page you're trying to use in the routes folder. And in this case, it sent us to the index.js file. Those instructions were just send this person onto the view that's called index and tell that page that the file is called Express. Finally, we hit that page and the page says we're going to present some HTML, but in this case it's written in the Pug format, which we're going to learn a little bit later on. We're going to have a heading tag and we're going to have a plain text tag, and we're going to use the title that's incoming from the route as variable text in here. All right, beaut. Now, we've got the Jump Club web server running already. If you don't already, remember to change directory and use the terminal to navigate to the Jump Club folder, and then use this code right here to start the web server once you get there. And that will, what did I do there? I think it's still running. I didn't mean to grab that. Once you get there, you should have this running in the browser, and we do. So it's published on port 3000. Now watch what happens if I change the word welcome to this is. So we've just changed some HTML now. and you'll remember what happened when we changed HTML and refreshed the browser. It says this is Express, or this is to Express. So this is Express. Great. I'm going to refresh that. So we can see that just changing the HTML is easy, and it refreshes in the same way we've already learned about. But what about this title? I told you that that Express is telling the app that this is supposed to be, that the title of this page is supposed to be Express. But what if we wanted it to be something else? Let's say we want it to be our app, Jump Club. Let's say we wanted it to be that. Now I'm going to change the words jump file. I'm going to save this. You'll see this dot go away once I save it. There it goes. And when I refresh this, are we going to see this word turn from Express into Jump Club? You'd think so, wouldn't you? Because we changed the word Jump Club here. We're now telling this page that it's not called Express anymore. It's called Jump Club. Let's have a look. So I'll refresh this, but no change. I can refresh this as much as I want. That's because when you start messing around with stuff in the routes folder, the web server needs to be restarted in order to inherit those changes. So when I change this, I need to restart the web server so that those changes will be reflected. The way to do that is to go back to your web server, hit Control-C, that stops the web server. And because I typed it in earlier, I can hit the up key, the up arrow key on my keyboard, and I can go back through previous instructions. So up and down, I'm going up and down now using the up and down keys, back through previous instructions that I've typed into the terminal. So I'm going to hit the up key, and the very last thing I did was start a web server. So I stopped it, and now I just started again in the same folder. And now when I refresh this page, we'll see that Jump Club is now the title of this page. So that's an important distinction to make. When we play around in the PUG, in the index file, in the view, we can change this stuff without we change this HTML stuff, but you see this blue stuff or the stuff in the brackets? This is code that's coming from somewhere else, and that's in this case coming from the index file and the route file, and we need to restart the web server when we make those changes. Okay, so that's the basics. Hope you got the jumps from one to the other okay. I've got a little diagram sketch that I've made with the video, so between that one and this one, hopefully you get the gist. We're going to start messing with this stuff in a minute, and we're going to make some of our own routes, and we're going to instruct the app.js file to send us to different places and make new pages, etc. So let's get into that. Hope you're having fun so far.